In January 1916, in the middle of World War I, conscription was introduced to Britain, and all adult men under 40 faced being sent to the trenches. Most of those men left for France from Charing Cross Station, and inevitably every night dozens would gather around the church of St Martin in the Fields in Trafalgar Square, looking for warmth on their last night on home soil.
And so the vicar at the time, Dick Shepherd, turned a blind eye to whom they chose for company and let the men shelter in the church. And thus the long association between St Martin in the Fields and those in need of shelter and homelessness was born.
8 years later, on the 6th of January 1924, the first religious service ever to be broadcast came from St Martin in the Fields. The service was tailored towards those who were unable to attend regular church services, but it also sought to enrich the faith and life of a general audience.
That's the portrait of Dick Shepherd, and these are a couple of pictures. Dick Shepherd had the vision of hundreds of people passing through St Martin's, and he imagined asking them why were they here, where were they going, and they said, "We are coming home." St Martin's was their home, and that vision has been a vision which has really set a lot of the agenda for the following 100 years.
After the Great War, Dick Shepherd recognised that many had fallen on hard times. This led to the creation of the Holiday Fund and the Christmas Appeal, raising money to help families and individuals to take holidays during the summer months and buy food and gifts over the festive period. The first mention of the Christmas Appeal came on Sunday, the 5th of December 1920, when, at the end of the morning service, Dick Shepherd asked members of the congregation to donate money so that the less fortunate could enjoy treats and happiness at Christmas. In December 1925, the Christmas Appeal was for the first time incorporated into the broadcast service, and by 1927 it began to be included in the December edition of the Radio Times, thus marking the beginning of the Appeal as we recognise it today. The Appeal continued to be broadcast throughout the 1930s and 40s, becoming a staple part of the build-up to Christmas for radio listeners across the country.
On Christmas Day, we always had the radio on for the Christmas Appeal. Pat McCormick was the vicar. Dick Shepherd was a visiting preacher. We just sat round the radio on the table. I mean, it was something special.
Austin Williams, who became vicar in 1956 and stayed for nearly 30 years, was a natural broadcaster. Under his direction, the Christmas Appeal blossomed into the nationally recognised tradition it is today. It was during Austin's tenure that the Appeal first raised a six-figure sum.
Austin brought everything to the Appeal. He was very, very popular. If he asked for things, he got them. He really put his heart and soul into the Appeal.
The BBC Radio 4 Christmas Appeal with St Martin in the Fields continues to be broadcast, benefiting homeless and vulnerable people throughout the UK. And in 2015, it reached a new record total of £2.5 million. In London, it supports The Connection at St Martin in the Fields, London's busiest homelessness charity, helping people to get off the streets through specialist services, including a day and night centre, street outreach, help finding employment and support in the face of mental health issues and addiction. The Connection helps over 4,000 people a year, mainly through its day centre, which offers food, showers, laundry facilities, as well as health advice and personal support.
I got into debt. I didn't know how to handle it. I found one place to sleep on the doorstep, and while I was sitting there, a street worker came up to me. At that time, St Mungo's used to do the outreach work. And they said to me, go to Connections. So I went along. And there was something about them that made you feel at home. You could talk to them.
But the fruits of the appeal are also spread nationwide through the Vicar's Relief Fund. The chief purpose of the fund is to support people who are at risk of becoming homeless. Grants are often used as a deposit for more permanent housing or as a rent payment to help remove the threat of eviction. Funds can also be given for household items such as beds, cookers and fridges. The average grant is around £200 to £300, and very importantly, the funds can normally get to the people who need them within 36 hours of St Martin's receiving a request from a support worker.
I was evicted from a room I was in at East Ham. They had urgent renovation. I went to Changing Lives Housing Trust. They told me it's £140. I really honestly didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to be sleeping on the streets. When I went back and told Matt, who works for the night shelter where I was staying, he contacted the Vicar's Relief Fund and they agreed to the deposit. I was very surprised. I didn't think anything like that existed. I've got somewhere to live, and I'm sorting my situation out, and actually my whole life is progressing forward.
Because of its century-old relationship with homelessness, St Martin's has also been the birthplace of like-minded organisations, including Shelter, Amnesty and The Big Issue. As we prepare for the 90th St Martin's Christmas Appeal, we long for the day when society's most vulnerable members won't have to rely on the kindness of strangers. But until that day comes, the St Martin's Christmas Appeal will be here.
The BBC Radio 4 Christmas Appeal with St Martin in the Fields isn't about changing the world. It's about doing the best we can. And having helped us to do that for over 90 years is something of which you should feel justifiably proud.